What is the impact economy? It is an economy where you start responding to the needs of people to need more than just profits, to have good health, to have a clean environment, to have social harmony, to have communal peace. And let me actually begin there to say what is this idea of the impact economy. So this transition is what I'm talking about here. A transition from, if I put it the before and the after scenario, from an output economy, which measures profits at the micro level and GDP at the macro level, to an impact economy, from a capitalism that is only about shareholders to one which is about stakeholders, where the lens that you are using is not just produce capital, but also human capital, the health and the intelligence and training of your employees, natural capital, the richness of everything that nature provides us, and social capital, that is the relationships, the institutions, everything that goes and makes society possible. And then when you look at that kind of economy, when your metrics change, your national performance is no longer measured on only GDP, but on something called inclusive wealth. I'll talk about that. And on the corporate level, you're not just measuring profits, but also the impacts on society. You would also have heard, those of you who are watching this space, about this idea of being nature positive. Now, how can business run its business whilst not destroying the environment, but actually recreating, regenerating the environment? And this nature positive idea is something that can only happen if there's a huge amount of collaboration. So it needs policies to be aligned, it needs consumption to be aligned, it needs production to be aligned. So it's kind of a collective effort. But the idea is that you can, if you have the right incentives and we don't have the wrong incentives like perverse subsidies, you can actually incentivize a transition into a nature positive economy. Unfortunately, as a result of greenhouse gases, land use of water usage, land and water pollutions and air pollution, it is actually driving what is known as our movement towards planetary boundaries. Firstly, a few words about planetary boundaries. So it's the same boxes that you see, the same drivers, greenhouse gases, land use, water, land and water pollutions that are causing this change. But apparently boundaries are a concept that was created by Johan Rockström and his colleagues at the Stockholm Resilience Center way back in 2009, 2010. And they've written about it 3 times, 2015, and the latest one I've got for you is 2023. There is the idea of a safe operating space. And then there's an area of risk. The orange and the red is an area of risk. And the further away you go, the more dangerous it is. You are actually operating outside the limits that the earth can manage on its own, right? And so some of the areas where we have clearly broken the limits is what we call the biogeochemical flow. So that means nitrogen and phosphorus pollution is way, way beyond what it should be. And the main reason for that is conventional agriculture. The old world style chemical agriculture, basically, not non-organic, non-regenerative, non-natural agriculture. Another place where we've broken planetary boundaries by a huge margin is biodiversity, what is now referred to as biosphere integrity. And that's both in terms of the functions of species and ecosystems, as well as genetic biodiversity. And we've clearly gone way, way past where we should be. Land use is bad, but okay, it's manageable. Water extraction is bad, but still manageable. But there are some things where you can see it's way beyond where you should be. The safe operating space is this inner green circle. And where we are is the wedge that you can see out. And here's an example from my company. We are doing a project right now for an airport in Asia, where we are looking at it from the same lens, and they are interested to find out what is their social return on investment, but with a lens of all of the stakeholders. So for instance, they're looking at customers, at aviation concessionaires, at their own employees, at the local communities in the cities where they operate the airport, NGOs, in this case, regulators and governments are giving the Indian regulators, for example, and the supply chain, the suppliers and vendors. And look at any of these. Like for instance, if you have aviation concessionaries, as you know, at any big airport, you will have flight catering and ground handling and fuel farms and duty-free shops and other shops and so on. And all of those would have sustainability impacts, but they are actually, how well they are managed from a sustainability point of view depends on the management of the airport and its authorities. And that is going to affect natural capital, and it will affect the health and knowledge and skills of the employees, so it affects human capital, and those are general public goods which will be
good for the economy, good for the country, but unless somebody manages them, they're not going to happen.
So, and so on and so on. For each of these different stakeholder groups. And remember, the one that I haven't mentioned here is obvious, shareholders. The airport has shareholders, but that we already do. We look after shareholders. We just don't look after anybody else. That's the problem. And what I'm saying is that you have to look at all of the stakeholders. And to give you just one small example, Microsoft actually came to us with an interesting challenge. They said that in the UK, there's something called the Social Value Act. And we have all these consultancies giving us reports about what social value we have created. Why? Because Microsoft was bidding for the contracts of the UK government. And to do that, you need to demonstrate social value. And how do you demonstrate social value? Yeah, you can get a fancy report, nice glossy, written by some consultants and pay $500 million. Or you can come to a small company called GIST and do it properly, economically valued impacts. And they decided to do the right thing and gave to us. And they were so pleased at the first one that they made us write reports on all of their social value programs. They began in Scotland and they covered the whole of UK. And then they still transported across to their head office in the US. And there's a gentleman here called Satya Nadella. If you read his report, you'll find our name mentioned in his report as well. And the numbers in that report in terms of social value all come from just that. So, my friends, what I'm describing to you is not just an idea, not just a theory. It's actually beginning to happen. Sustainability leaders are latching onto it. They are using it for measuring impacts. They are using it for measuring social return on investment. And I very much hope that you guys will join them.